Hey everybody, Bryan Zane here, and it's time for my Better Late Than Never review of Forbidden Door 2024. I apologize for getting this one out a couple of days past when most people in the YouTube sphere have already put out their reviews of this show. I had a very busy Sunday evening, and I was just slammed for work trying to catch up on some stuff this week for the channel, for things that are going to be airing later in this month. It was a lot of work to get these things knocked out, but I think you will appreciate what the end result of that work is going to be later here in July. So that's why this review took a couple extra days for me to get out, but I had a great time watching it, finally catching up to it earlier this week, and I'm going to give you my thoughts on the show right now, beginning with the main show, MJF making his return to pay-per-view competition, taking on Hechicero from CMLL, the mad scientist, the alchemist of Lucha Libre. This was a good match. It was a good return to form for MJF here. He's coming out in the Islanders colors. They got the "He's our scumbag" chant. As a character, still seems very kind of similar to what he was doing as a babyface prior to his injuries and taking time off for that. Not so much of the comedy ha-ha stuff that he was doing with Adam Cole and Better Than You, Baby. A bit more of a serious edge to him, but he's still kind of that smarmy, smug, babyface scumbag that they've been pushing. It's good to see him back in his homeland of Long Island doing a little crowd surfing, but he doesn't really go anywhere. Taz goes, "That was a bad crowd surf." I love that. MJF doing his shtick early on. Hechicero working his arm though. MJF trying the heat seeker, but it gets blocked. Hechicero with the mad scientist bomb. I loved that move. Hechicero then mocks MJF with the hilarious strut, like the wobbliest knees ever, and gives the crowd the double deuce. Some very fun offense by Hechicero here. Nice back and forth. MJF gets more of his spots in. The Plainview Sunset, the sheer drop brainbuster, and MJF wins this match here. I'm going to give it 2.5 stars out of 5 for this opener. I think it was, a fine match, in a bubble. There's really no story to it. It's just, hey, MJF needs an opponent now that he's back, and here we go, Forbidden Door style. I think that you compare to some of his other performances at previous Forbidden Doors, and this one I wouldn't say is on the top of that list, but still good to see MJF back, looking strong as he continues his return. I'd like to see more of Hechicero in AEW, maybe beyond this Forbidden Door window though. I love the hype package that they did for the next matchup, the Trios contest, as the Elite take on Scissor Ace. I love the narration by this voiceover who's on the side of the Young Bucks and talking about how this is an exhibition of international diplomacy. I love they're showing the old Elite with Kenny Omega's face like obviously blurred out to keep the story going that he's been suspended or whatever, casting the Acclaimed as like ungrateful for their opportunity for this TV time and everything. They're taunting authority with their quote-unquote raps. I just thought this was just a very funny hype package to start things off here. Speaking of funny, I love Elite Okada. I've had some time to think about it. I love his comedic timing in the last several weeks. It's more than just him saying bitch to get a laugh. Like, he has just like the facial expressions, the timing when he says stuff, the way he kind of looks out in the crowd, and just the way he hits his beats. I think it's been really good. And we saw more of that in this matchup as well. I love when, the Elite are getting their heat on the Acclaimed. You see Nick Jackson wearing the headphones, and Okada's like doing these he's calling them DJ moves, whatever that record scratching taunt is. Also love their kind of rekindling the classic rivalry from New Japan between Okada and Hiroshi Tanahashi, president of New Japan, the ace of Scissor Ace. Good to see him in this matchup here. This was definitely a match where, diplomacy is a good word that was used in the hype package here, because this was a match where, hey, let's get Tanahashi on the card. He's a legend, but obviously he's up there in age, so put him in a spot where he can be kind of helped buoyed by other wrestlers. There are also some CM Punk chants as this match goes on. It makes sense because the Bucks are there, but then people are booing the CM Punk chants and then responding with "he got fired," which I thought was pretty funny. We finally get Okada and Tanahashi being the legal men. Scissor Ace on a big run. Tanahashi wants to hit the high fly flow, but he's distracted long enough for Okada to put the knees up. Tanahashi's pants are dropping as he walks into a big dropkick by Okada. The Rainmaker, Okada with a cover, gets the win for the Elite. Okada wants to go for it again until Daddy Ass, friend of Tanahashi, runs in and chases the Elite out of the ring. 3 stars out of 5 for me. I think this match was just okay. I think when you look at the history of the Young Bucks on pay-per-view and AEW and some of the crazy stuff they've done, there was none of that here. But you don't need to have every match be like that. And so I'm glad they pulled it back a little bit. They're obviously going to save the fantastical stuff and keep it in their back pocket for Wembley, for All In. I don't know if they're going to face the Acclaimed for the tag belts there. Now, I'm filming this on a Wednesday morning, so Dynamite will have probably aired by the time this episode drops. So the answers to these questions I'm going to have for like the future, the immediate future at All In, may already have answers by the time you see this. So I don't know yet, but I think it's interesting to see like where the Elite kind of are now. Obviously, this is Forbidden Door. It's the cross-promotional show, so maybe they won't have like the upper top spot that they're gearing for All In, that they're kind of going to work their way toward. So when you consider where the Elite began, like, hey, we're going to beat up Tony Khan, or we're going to do all this crazy stuff, and then you have this kind of mid-card match with the Acclaimed and Tanahashi, like, it's there, but it's just there. That's the best way I can describe it. We get a matchup for the Owen Hart men's tournament, a quarterfinal matchup here as Bryan Danielson takes on Shingo Takagi, and I'm loving this, this push they're giving Danielson here and the story they're telling, where it's kind of a must-win situation for him to be in this tournament because he's wrapping up his full year as an active, like, full-time competitor, and there's the theories out there that he could be the one to win this one, maybe win the championship as one kind of final push, one last rise sort of thing. Don't know how that's going to end up, but we will see where the story for the American Dragon begins here. There's some good back and forth. These guys work really well together. We get this spot early on where Danielson goes for a dive to the outside. Shingo catches him, drops him on his head, and then we get this, I guess this is the new recurring spot. Is Bryan Danielson seriously injured? We get that thing where he's holding his neck. The doctors are checking on him. This seems to be just kind of his thing now. And, it's hard to watch, but it's getting to the point where it's kind of boy cried wolf, where when you see this keep happening, it's like, oh, this is just... That's what he does now. Get some big strikes from Shingo after Danielson tries to elbow him. They fight up top for a while. Danielson with his big back suplex off the top rope, and you can see it is still affecting his body. Shingo's caught in an arm bar, powers out and hits Danielson with a slam. There's this big superplex. Danielson keeps selling. Takagi hits Made in Japan. We get a kick out. Things are looking grim for the American Dragon, but he catches the arm. We get a Busaiku knee and a kick out. Danielson's a potty mouth as he says he's going to kick Shingo's head in, and he does. Shingo fights it, but Danielson gets him in the omoplata. Shingo with the verbal tap, and Danielson wins to advance in the tournament. I give this one 4 stars out of 5. I love how every match so far in this show has been ramping up in quality and intensity. I loved the intensity in this matchup here. I've said it before about him and a couple other people, but it bears repeating for Danielson. Few people in wrestling sell head and neck trauma quite as convincingly as this guy. And it does get kind of annoying and very frustrating and concerning when you're watching it and you know about his history of injuries and concussions and whatnot, and you feel for him. But I guess, like, damn it, that's the sign of a good worker, because, he keeps making people bite. It's very effective. It's a very effective form of storytelling, if not a little bit like, ooh, too close to the vest, man. You're gonna spook us too many times. Moving on to what is arguably the strongest storyline in AEW right now, which is pretty crazy to think about when you consider just how far the women's division's come from in this company the last couple of years. Timeless Toni Storm defends the women's championship against Stardom's Mina Shirakawa, and Mariah May is just caught in the middle of these two women she clearly has feelings for. But this has been a really great storyline because it's got great wrestling, it's got a good backstory that makes sense because of Mariah May and Mina's history in Stardom, and Toni's history in Stardom too, for that matter. Good backstory with that, good character work, good plot points and beats, and there's been a little bit of that fan service too. So it's just beyond the whole, like, I guess as OSW would say, the lesbian pollen storyline, because there's actually some like heart and there's some emotion behind that as well. And the story here is that Mariah supposedly must choose. And so we'll see how that actually plays out in this one. Toni Storm coming out for her entrance dressed as an homage to the Statue of Liberty, referencing the Tired, Huddled Masses poem in her Collision promo, which I thought kicked a lot of ass, by the way. Mariah May presenting the flowers to both the ladies here as the match starts off. Mina working over the legs of the champ because a figure four wrapped around the ring post at one point. Toni fights back and goes for a hip attack, throws herself right into the steel steps. Mina dives off the top to take out Toni and Luther. This is all going mere feet away from Mariah right now. We get this gnarly Baldo bomb off the second turnbuckle when Toni hits Mina with it. The way her head bounces off the mat made me throw up in my mouth a little bit. It was so bad. Mina with the figure four in the ring. They are trading strikes. Mariah May looks on breathlessly. We get this top rope DDT by Mina, then just regular type. We get a kick out. Toni kicks out of the glamorous driver. We get Toni chants. This crowd, by the way, very split toward Mina and Toni. It's really not one way or the other, and I think that it's Mariah May's conflict definitely is reflected in the fans' conflict as well. They don't know who to cheer for. Toni with an emphatic Storm Zero to pin and retain. After the bell, though, Toni picks up Mina, who offers her hand. They shake. Mariah has them hug. Then they kiss. Wow, what a pop for that. And then Excalibur with the line of the night saying, "How do they know this is what we did in our pre-show meeting?" That I thought was brilliant. Nigel McGuinness standing and crying, weeping openly at this. What a moment and what a match. I give it 4 stars out of 5. I thought this was a great piece of business. I thought the physicality that these two had for each other, just laying into each other, really making it count. And I think they have really good chemistry as well. And the added storyline of who's Mina gonna choose, ultimately she chooses both, which, that happens. You can choose both. And I think that was really cool. That kind of subverted expectations. I was expecting Mariah's gonna turn on one of them here. There may still be a betrayal at some point down the line, but I think them, and they've seen that AEW has done this a couple of times where you think the breakup's going to happen, but instead we actually get this different kind of twist, and it helps kind of turn things down into a different path on the storyline. So I like they didn't go with the betrayal and Mariah having to choose one or the other at this point, but I think it was a really good match and a really good story to help kind of gel it all together. Moving on to a dream match, Zack Sabre Jr. taking on Orange Cassidy here. And boy, last couple of months have not been kind to our pal OC. He's lost his championship, he's lost his best friends, and he is just kind of on a downward spiral here. He's even wearing the dark denim and the black t-shirt when he comes out here, coming out to the Pixies to let you know he is super serious this time around. But he's also vowed to beat ZSJ with his hands in his pockets. So will he be able to accomplish that obviously very important goal? We are going to find out here in this matchup. Zack actually holding the pockets open for Orange at one point. Orange plays a little dirty with the knuckles. Some neat roll-ups upon roll-ups. Zack Sabre Jr. with that little neck twist to the ankles, just tying up Orange in so many different ways, mocking Orange's kicks. Orange going after Zack's knee in a major way from here. I will say, though, speaking of the dragon screw, I think that and headbutts are like the two moves that I cringe the most at, just because how much it really looks like it hurts. I don't think I've ever seen a dragon screw where I thought, oh, that didn't look like it tore someone's ligament. And this match here, there's a couple moments like that for sure. Orange coming back, hits a diving DDT with a huge bump by Sabre. Zack comes back with those hideous finger breaks, but OC remains resilient. Hits the Orange punch, but Sabre kicks him in response. Trading a lot of pinfall attempts and roll-ups, very close calls. Suddenly Sabre catching all 4 of Orange's limbs, making him submit. Zack wins the match. I also give this match 4 stars out of 5. This match was just a technical delight. It was so fun to watch all kind of the technical wizardry at play between both guys here. Not just Sabre, but Orange is pretty good in that regard as well. The counters, the close calls, the selling by Cassidy as the match was going on, and the pain in the hands, and the pain in Zack's leg as well. I thought this was just such a fun match with two guys who have very similar flowing styles, and I think they have a great chemistry here. I really want to see more between these two down the line someday. Guys, I'm going to make a confession here. I don't quite know what Chris Jericho's gimmick is, this learning tree thing. I thought I had an idea when it first debuted, and now since then, it has kind of transformed into this, I don't know what to describe it. It's funny. I think it makes me laugh. I just, where it comes from or how Jericho's character evolved from the super serious kind of guy we saw in JAS and the Inner Circle and all that stuff, to go from that to this really goofy gimmick where he's just shouting, "Hi guys," and waving at people and saying almost these really weird PSA things. It's really 2 shades away from Perry Saturn and doing the "you're welcome" thing at times. And I like that. It's funny. And I think that Big Bill and Brian Keith as the branches and their own very different portrayals of that. Big Bill's almost doing Jericho's shtick better than Jericho, and I think Brian Keith being just kind of the surly guy who just is like kind of angry chiming in, you show some respect to Chris Jericho. Like, that works to me. Again, I don't know where it's going. I don't know why it's led to this. And again, hard to really pin down just like, what is the learning tree, Chris Jericho? It's kind of baffling to me. Meanwhile, what a dream trio this is. Samoa Joe, Hook, and Katsuyori Shibata. 3 badass fighters, 2 of them with towels. One of them's father wore a towel, so maybe he'll get his son someday. But I think it's kind of a cool thing to have the 3 of them together, fighting under the united cause of fighting the learning tree. Sadly, Brian Keith is injured here, and so Jeff Cobb, the New Japan World Television Champion, is taking his place. Bummer to see Keith laid out here, but I think Jeff Cobb is a great talent, and so good to see him here. And Jericho cut a little pre-match promo. Beforehand, he's responding to the please retire chant, saying, I know you don't want me to retire, guys, because I'm actually from Long Island. I'm your hometown hero. Thanks, guys. Big Bill overpowers Shibata to start off. Jericho goes for a cross-body, but Hook and Shibata both nope him. Samoa Joe looks like a proud papa. Joe and Jeff face off, trade some offense. These 2 large men, these water heater built men duking it out. Hook gets in there and looks good at first, using some evasive maneuvers, but he's cut off and starts taking the heat. Jericho doing the hi guys wave now with the cocky pin. That is evolution. Jeff Cobb, love his athleticism, beautiful moonsault. Cobb is worked over for a bit. We get Shibata and Jericho trading offense again. Hook eventually gets the T-bone on Jeff Cobb. Codebreaker on Hook, but there's a kick out. Hook comes back, hits the Judas effect on Jericho, and pins to win. I give it 3 stars out of 5. I like the physicality in this matchup. Again, seeing Jeff Cobb getting some moments in this match, seeing Hook get a win back, especially with Jericho's own finishing maneuver, was very cool to see. Like I said, I do enjoy and I am entertained by the learning tree gimmick, even though I don't quite know what it is. It's making me laugh, and I've said before, if you can do that, then you made me a fan, and so still kind of curious to see where it's going with this. It hasn't exactly led to like banger matches, but it's, led to some very interesting promos and some funny moments, and so yeah, we'll just see. Maybe Hook now will get his moment in the sun and maybe win the FTW title back from Jericho at All In. Who's to say? Well, back at Double or Nothing, Adam Copeland broke his leg doing the most unnecessary spot of all time, forcing him to relinquish the TNT Championship. And so now we have a ladder match to determine who the new champion will be. We have Mark Briscoe, Konosuke Takeshita, Jack Perry, who's been the hand-picked person to win this matchup by the Elite. You also have El Phantasmo, you've got Lio Rush, and you've got Dante Martin, who I am just flabbergasted. He's back in a match like this, considering the type of match he was in that caused him to have that horrific leg injury, that compound fracture just last year. So good to see him back, and I hope he stays safe. Jack Perry is beaten up a lot by everyone else early on. Then everybody else but he and Takeshita all go for ladders at once. They throw them together. More use of ladders by Lio Rush. ELP grabs him in this torture rack, takes many spins, and crashes Lio down through the ladder. Martin's flying around a lot for a while. Brainbuster by Takeshita on the side of the ladder. Holy crap. Mark Briscoe with a crazy senton splash out of the ring and through a ladder table Takeshita sandwich. Jack Perry building a ladder structure. ELP joins him up there, giving Jack a double titty twister. Dante comes back and jumps up there. He and Phantasmo get knocked off. Dante selling his leg again, which of course makes this big noise of concern from the commentators, and I'm concerned watching this. I looked it up, and I don't think there was any actual injury from Dante here. He might have just taken a page from Bryan Danielson's book on that one. But the irony is that Lio Rush actually does get injured in this match somewhere, and so that actually forces him to be out from an independent date this week. Speaking of which, Lio dives to the frame him on the ladder to the outside onto Konosuke. Mark leaps off the top of the ladder on the apron, falls a little short of the table on the floor, and it does not break. Leo and Dante face off on top of the ladder. Is it Blackheart time? No, that's just for July 12th. A ridiculous Blue Thunder Bomb off the apron through 2 tables by Takeshita onto ELP. Those tables broke beautifully, by the way. Takeshita comes close to grabbing the belt, but Mark cuts him off. Mark is close, but Jack Perry cuts him off, beats the brakes off of Briscoe with a chair before he climbs the ladder and grabs the championship. I give it 4.5 stars out of 5. Call me what you will, but I like a good old-fashioned ladder match spot fest, demolition derby from time to time. And I think this match definitely checked all the boxes for me. There was great athleticism, there were wild moments, crazy crashes and collisions, even a little bit of story threads in there throughout, if you looked. And I think that this was just what I needed. It was not a technical masterpiece. It wasn't, drawn out holds and strikes. It was just crazy calamity and chaos, and I liked that. It was definitely fun to watch. As far as Jack Perry as the TNT champion, it feels right. It made the most sense out of anybody else in this matchup for him to win it, since that was the original plan, was for the Elite just to kind of give him the belt. And so him earning it this way, it gives him a little bit more of an edge, a little bit more credibility. Jack Perry, this is definitely the end result or the apex of the scapegoat push they've been giving him this year. And again, completing the set. Everyone else in the Elite has a belt. Jack Perry has a belt now. And I think it's great. I like Jack Perry's character, the scapegoat. I think it's been working well for him. I think anybody who says he can't cut a promo or he can't do this or can't do that, I think that this program right now is going a long way into kind of proving those doubters wrong. And I think that him as TNT champion, curious to see how that's going to go. It's a shame that Adam Copeland's run ended the way it did. It's kind of a disappointing. He won, but he also got hurt and had to drop the title. So you hate to see stuff like that, but maybe we'll see something down the line. Once Copeland is healed, we'll see he and Jack Perry square off. Winner take all, a match for the TBS and New Japan Strong Women's Championships as Mercedes Mone takes on Stephanie Vaquer from CMLL. This is a great matchup here. These two had a lot of hype going in, and I think they definitely met that hype. First several minutes of this match is all about Stephanie, because she is just dominating Mercedes for the first third of this matchup here. There's this great springboard cross body she hits, really cool leg lock on Mone that has her trapped while leaning forward. She does the big, what's the official name for that move? I first heard it as the skull fuck. I don't know if that's the official name for that move, but that's what she hits on Mone. Vaquer going off the rope, but it's intercepted by Mercedes. Now it's her time to get some heat for a couple of minutes. After the double down, the two ladies trade crossface attempts. At this point, the crowd begins to turn on Mercedes. I don't know if she's actually doing anything to cause that. You hear the announcers explain there's somebody in the audience in a Boston Celtics jersey who's bigging up Mercedes, and then a lot of the crowd is chanting, fuck the Celtics, fuck the Red Sox, this very anti-Boston chant, and Mercedes is from Boston, so that's probably why they were booing. But I don't quite get that, because it would start out very much mixed toward both ladies, where it's both ladies are getting good receptions, and then just out of nowhere they start booing Mercedes here in this match. Maybe it's because she's doing the Eddie tribute spots now that I think about it. Steph catches her and gets off a brutal looking dragon screw. There's that move again. Mercedes comes back, hits the Mone maker, Stephanie taps, Mercedes wins and holds both the belts. Mercedes is celebrating. Then we get Dr. Britt Baker's music. Big pop for the dentist. We haven't seen her in months. She makes a statement making it very clear she wants at least one of those belts. 4 stars out of 5 for me. I really enjoyed the back and forth in this matchup here. It tells a very different story from the other women's matchup, whereas the Toni Storm, Mina Shirakawa match was very physical, very hard strikes, very impactful. This one was all lucha libre. I loved it. There was so much great, technical work. There were the big arm drags, and there was all great stuff. It was very fluid, very quick, and so that's why it's so very different from the other women's matchup. But it's so exciting in its own way. And even if you don't have that whole love triangle story attached to it like the women's championship, this is still a really good matchup here. And, Britt Baker coming back, that opens up a lot of possibilities. I never thought I would say I was missing Britt Baker before, but when you're gone for nearly half a year, I guess absence makes the heart grow fonder. I remember, there were the rumors that she was going to be part of what we now know as the Undisputed Kingdom, because, she's Adam Cole's girlfriend and whatnot. Still curious to see, how those two might reconnect in storyline on TV, but it's cool to see Britt back. I think that, she needed that time away because she was so overexposed in the women's division that, and then in the months after she lost the belt, she was still there, where it's like you're just kind of waiting. Okay, is she going to come back and dominate again? It's an expectation almost. Like, they've been so reliant on Britt Baker that you almost forgot what it was like to not have Britt Baker, because she was there from the beginning. And so for her to have that big extended break, I think was very necessary. How Britt Baker will perform once she is back, how is she going to go when she returns to the ring? That's anyone's guess, because I think the character work's always been there. And so I don't think that's going to suffer. But how will she be in the ring? I think the women's division has improved and changed a lot in her absence. Will her return only help to kind of further increase it now that everyone else is kind of caught up to her standing? Or will she maybe bring it down? I mean, time will tell. In the semi-main event for the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship, Tetsuya Naito challenges Jon Moxley. I tell you, if you want a down and dirty, gritty, brawly, physical matchup, this is the one for you, because these MFs be spitting, I think, as the kids might say. Literally, they're spitting in each other's faces frequently as this match goes on. There's spitting, there is slapping, there's mega back rakes, there's this awkward brawl on the outside where Naito kind of spears Moxley between the space between the table and the timekeeper area, and one of the crew members is on the ground going what the hell, man? Naito with the advantage now hits this big neck breaker. Moxley with a top rope powerbomb. Moxley with a sleeper attempt, but Naito slips out and hits Destino. Goes for another one, but Moxley hits the paradigm shift. A Death Rider by Moxley, but we get a very close kick out, and you could tell he is frustrated. Moxley brings a chair into the ring. Red Shoes Uno kicks it away. We get this kind of struggle between the two until Naito hits another Destino. The cover and the win. Naito winning the IWGP World Championship for a 5th time. I give it 3 stars out of 5. It was a very hard-hitting, physical match, but this match, it was a solid one, but it didn't quite do it for me. It was a bit slow, a bit repetitive for my tastes at times. Naito really showing his age, sadly. He's not the same guy he was 5 or 6 years ago, and it really shows in a match like this. But I think that they carried themselves to a fine match. I'm sure New Japan's glad that the belt's off of Moxley and back home, so to speak, and AEW can keep having just one world champion and keeping it consistent in that way. It's time for the main event for the AEW World Championship as Swerve Strickland defends against the AEW International Champ Will Ospreay. And this is a match that many people speculated was going to happen at Wembley Stadium later in the year. It's happening now, and I think that really set off a lot of alarm bells for people. But we'll see how this match goes. Ospreay coming out with this really beautiful tribute to Hayabusa with the video package, then coming out with his own Hayabusa-inspired mask and carrying one of the originals from the legend himself. That was really cool. Long Island hip-hop legend from Dipset, Jim Jones, comes out with the AEW belt and introduces Swerve. These guys are just too quick for each other at the start here. Some fun little back and forth bits. Ospreay diving onto Swerve, starts taking over. He mimes eating a heart. A few minutes later on the outside, Swerve and Ospreay fight on the barricade. Ospreay with his Hurricane Rana. A great fast-paced sequence ending with Ospreay hitting the Styles Clash and a kick out. Both guys leap off the ropes and collide into something as we see Daniel Garcia sitting way up in the stands looking on. Swerve with one of the damnedest super angle slams I've ever seen. As the fight is continuing, one of my favorite parts here, Jim Ross, by the way, has been with the announce team since the previous match, so he's helping close out the show here. He's calling this match, all of a sudden we hear, can we get the guy behind us another beer? And then Taz goes, or a muzzle. I thought that was really funny. Not very often you hear the announcers in a wrestling show comment directly about the fans who are close to them. I always wondered how some of these commentators do it over the years. Will goes for an Oz cutter on the apron, but Swerve dodges it. Swerve follows up with his big ass stomp off the top onto Ospreay into the announce table. A pile driver on the barricade. Get out. Ospreay hits a couple of Oz cutters, but Swerve still kicks out. He blocks the hidden blade. Ospreay with the Stormbreaker. Swerve kicks out. MJF looks on backstage. After going for the Tiger Driver 91 but not able to pull it off, Ospreay obliterates obliterates referee Paul Turner. In comes Don Callis, who tries to slip Ospreay the screwdriver. Prince Nana takes his sweet-ass time getting involved there, but now Ospreay has the screwdriver and threatens to stab Nana. Prince Nana is not a strong man. I love that line of commentary. Ospreay puts down the weapon. Swerve capitalizes, hits the stomp as Audrey comes in. We get a 2 count. Swerve breaks the arm, hits the house call. We get another kick out. Swerve blocks a desperate hidden blade, hits peer pressure, and wins the damn match. What a main event. I'm going to give this 5 stars out of 5. This was the only matchup on this entire show that I was genuinely like, oh my gosh, I'm excited to see this one and I can't wait to see who wins. And I was very pleased at the result of this one. I think this was just a fantastic match between two of like the best and brightest in AEW right now. I love the fact that they kept the belt on Swerve. I think everyone felt it was this foregone conclusion that Ospreay was just going to beat Swerve for the title, that Swerve was just kind of a lame duck champion, but I think it's really cool. They got to kind of have their cake and eat it too. Ospreay is still a champion, but Swerve is still the world champion. I think that really speaks volumes to what the company sees in him. Told some good story. You know, the first time I watched it and thought about it, I thought the whole stuff with Don Callis and the screwdriver and Ospreay thinking about it, that kind of took it away from me a little bit. But the more I kind of marinate on that, it actually just helps contribute more to that story, because you see the history of Don Callis with his charges over the years and that telltale screwdriver and like what happens when people listen or don't listen to Don Callis and where it ends them up. Because you saw a Double or Nothing, you know, Will Ospreay didn't listen to Don Callis and he won. Konosuke Takeshita did listen to him and he lost. Will Ospreay starts to listen at first and then chooses not to, kind of thinks about it and goes against it, and that ends up costing him ultimately. And so where's Will Ospreay and Don Callis going to fit in after this? And, you know, building things up for, you know, I think it's going to be maybe Swerve or Ospreay and MJF for All In. So where's Swerve going to go after this? There's a lot of great potential to spring forth from this matchup here, but this match just by itself was a tremendous main event, easily the best match of the night, which is why I give it 5 stars out of 5. My grade for Forbidden Door 2024 is an A. I thought this was just, on the whole, a really kick-ass night of wrestling for people who like wrestling. You know, if you like your wrestles, this is going to be it for you. But it's not just wrestling. I think there were a lot of great story beats that came across on this show. You've got, you know, Britt Baker's big return. You've got the storyline with Toni Storm and Mariah and Mina Shirakawa. You've got the Elite continuing their reign of terror in different ways. You've got this story here with the World Championship and where do MJF and Garcia fit into with these other guys here. There were a couple of matches on this show that were just kind of there for me, didn't mean as much to me, but I thought, you know, they weren't really taking away or detracting from the show per se. That's just going to happen when you've got a show with that many matches and it being, you know, 4 hours long. I'm not complaining about the length this time. I'm just saying that's going to happen where some of those matches just might not hit for me the way they would in other contexts. But still, just a great show. Like, AEW rarely has a bad pay-per-view. There's rarely, across all the companies, there's rarely been a bad pay-per-view this year. We are certainly spoiled with riches, but, you know, AEW's action has been really strong so far, especially in the pay-per-view game, and starting to build some momentum with these big comebacks. You know, you've got, you know, MJF back, you got Britt Baker back, going to have some more people coming back in the next couple months, I would imagine. And so there's a lot of good momentum building for AEW right now. But what did you think of Forbidden Door? Let me know in the comments section below. Be sure to give the video a thumbs up if you like it. Subscribe to the channel. Hit that bell icon for all the notifications. And if you haven't seen it already, folks, go check out my video of the greatest American wrestlers countdown. The final entrant may surprise you. Certainly has for a lot of people so far. So check that out. And, you know, don't worry, because for the rest of the month, we're going to have some more great content for you. We're going to have Bash of the Beach 99. We're going to have the greatest foreign heels countdown. And at the very end of the month, I'm not going to give it away right now, but there's a video I'm very, very excited for. A lot of research, a lot of time and effort's been dumped into this thing, and I think you're going to like the end result. So stay tuned for that. But until then, folks, I'm Bryan Zane, and I'll see you next time.